Talofa kia ora and welcome back to Fresh in Rugby, man. How is everyone doing? Well, it's good to have you guys back. If you didn't get to watch the game between the All Blacks versus Argentina, that is not a problem. I'm about to analyze that for you the best that I can. As you probably noticed by now from my last video, sort of getting to have a feel of where I want to go with my YouTube channel. And so, hey, wish me luck, yeah? Appreciate your support as well. Thanks for watching. Now, let's analyze this game between the All Blacks and Argentina. That game was for the history books. And so, well done to Argentinian brothers. Pablo Matera, you're the man. I think he got player of the match as well. So, well done to him. Now, after losing to New Zealand last week, the Pumas bounced back. Man, and they bounced back pretty hard and with a solid performance, eh? Okay. They were obviously outscored by the amount of tries. The All Blacks scored 3, then Argentina scored 2. But the replacement fly half, Santiago Carreras, when he came on, he made a big difference. Yeah, he slotted through 3 penalty kicks, and they all mattered. And that's what gave Argentina the win as well. Now, on the other hand, we have our All Blacks brothers that actually lost the game. Now, the All Blacks discipline proved costly. It really did. And especially with the 3 yellow cards that happened. And so, with those 3 yellow cards, the 2 that happened in the first half was Will Jordan and Tupou. And so, it wasn't so much of, it was the timing. Yeah, it was the timing and where it happened. And I believe that when those yellow cards happened, because both of them in the bin, that left the All Blacks with 13 players. And then allowed Argentina to build momentum. Yeah, and so despite the loss though, Damian McKenzie came on and he slotted that last penalty kick that gave us the bonus point. And also kept us on top of the championship. And the championship is wide open for anyone to take at this stage. It was like last week, the All Blacks and the Wallabies, you know, I'm pretty sure going into this week, they wanted to let these team know, man, what we did wasn't a fluke. Yeah? But too bad, South Africa and Argentina came back and were like, mate, we were only just warming up. So, you know, my probably takeaway was that was a win for Argentina. It was their determination, you know, and the loss for the All Blacks was the lack of composure and discipline. It was just simple as that. Okay? This wasn't a case of Argentina playing the best 80 minutes of their lives. Yeah, it was like the best 80 minutes of them capitalizing on every single mistake and bouncing on those mistakes when the All Blacks made those errors. And so the Pumas played with intensity and passion. You know, it was like you wanted it to continue. You wanted to be part of it. And so you could feel the momentum building in every All Blacks mistake that happened. But on the other hand, for the All Blacks, this game will sadly be remembered because of those 3 yellow cards. Like I said before, it's not just that they were given, but it was the timing and the context of it. Yeah? So you simply just can't win, especially in the tight games like this. You can't win with 13 men on the field. It's just simple as that. Okay? So there was a massive disadvantage, and especially when you have a player, but we didn't just have 1 or 2, we had 3. We had 3 players in there. And so it's a fundamental failure, yeah, of discipline and game management. Now, there are some points that I want to point out of probably why and what happened to our All Blacks. One of them was our discipline problem, and that's not a secret. You could see that from, mate, if you really wanted to count how bad the All Blacks was on Saturday or Sunday morning, depending on where you were. The yellow cards are something that we're going to be remembered for a long time, especially in that game. Will Jordan's yellow card, yeah, it's debatable. It's debatable for obstructions, but it gave Argentina a crucial attacking platform. You know, they didn't need it, but we gave it to them, and it just built the fire in them. The second one was Tupou's yellow card. Now his one was for the intentional knockdown. Okay, and when Tupou went off as well. Remember, Will Jordan was off as well. So there was 2 of these fellas sitting in a naughty corner, while 13 of their brothers trying to battle out on the field. And then we have the third one, which was later on in the game, with Seville Reese, yellow card. Another intentional knockdown late in the game, which sort of sealed what the All Blacks' fate was on the night. But you know, with these yellow cards, especially in the last 10 minutes of the game, man, where we could have come back, but in return, instead of building the All Blacks, we went to the bin, and then we were giving Argentina opportunity to gain more territory, you know, and getting themselves out of trouble and things to work on. So you can't mount a comeback when you're constantly on the wrong side of the referee as well, man. So it didn't really help the All Blacks at all. Now talking about Argentina's, man, for them it was grind and punish strategy. Yeah, the Pumas game plan was brilliant in its simplicity, yeah, and execution. Now, few things that I want to mention why I love about Argentina's on this game. First one is area dominance. People probably talking about it a lot. They consistently put the All Blacks under pressure, yeah, with contestable kicks. Now the All Blacks back three is known in the history and even now they're known to be the strength of the team. But apparently on the game on Saturday, a lot of it was relying on Will Jordan. The man can't do everything himself, okay? Which is usually a strength, but it became a struggle to handle the high balls. Yeah, so we need to do better than that. And so every time we dropped or we missed it, you know, we gave the Pumas huge territorial and position advantage, okay? Second one was the forward packs. Now, Argentina's forwards pack, they were immense, yeah? They didn't just compete, they dominated the breakdown. Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that this was probably the heaviest forward pack that the All Blacks have put on the field. But boy, if you look at Argentina's and the way their forwards played, man, it's something else. And who was the leader of that? Pablo Matera. It's like he was rolling back in the years, man. Carrying like a freight train. Without a doubt, his physical dominance was the foundation of that win that Argentina's have. The third one for me was Santiago Carreras. I hope I said those names right. If not, forgive me, man. His impact when he came on. Obviously, he was a massive game changer, okay? He came on for an early injury, which was Thomas. Now, he was cool, you know, calm and collected. So, he couldn't have asked for a better fly half to come on and control and to be the general of the team. I mean, his kicking was flawless, you know, slotting in 3 crucial penalties in the second half, and the scoreboard just kept ticking over. And it, you know, the more those points were going forward on the scoreboard, the less chance for the All Blacks to win. And, you know, even the All Blacks left some points out there, man. Okay, so third, the All Blacks' unforced errors and lack of composure, man. Beyond the yellow cards, there were a number of fundamental errors. Do you guys would agree with that? Okay, there were a lot of them that actually hurt the All Blacks. Let me name one of them. Goal kicking. Now, Beauden Barrett had a off night at the tee. Yeah, while it wasn't a solely reason why we lost, but those that are like leaving easy points out on the field that we needed, especially in tight contest games like these. Okay, so remember, every kick you go for, they equal points, and when they don't go over, if you don't convert them, it equals minus points. So they are very crucial. Yeah, take the South Africa and Australian game. If Connor would have gotten a kick over, the momentum would have changed. but it didn't. So once again, as much as it might look like doesn't really affect the loss, but it really does. You're leaving easy points out there. Okay. Another thing, another fundamental error that really hurt the All Blacks was our ball security. The All Blacks, man, we struggled to hold on to the ball and build phases. Like there were at times when we had the ball and we would be passing it, we'll be standing there and we're like, no one's ready. Like, I've never seen that. Was it because of the debutants or the new players? Or maybe we just shut off, you know? Didn't really have as much fire as Argentina did. So the All Blacks team were either isolated at the breakdown or turned over positions, especially in key attacking moments. And that happened quite often, and that really hurt the All Blacks. Another thing that really hurt us was our disjointed attack. Yeah, when we did have the ball, like I said before, man, it was almost like uncharacteristically flat for the All Blacks to play the way they did. They just looked, I don't know, lack of energy. It's like they got jet lagged or something like that. You know, like their passing when it's crisp, their lines when it's hard and direct, like last week's game. And so, you know, it was a massive difference. They couldn't find a way to consistently break down the relentless Pumas defense. How poor was that? You know, compared to last week, man, different game, man. Now, what does this mean for the Rugby Championship? This result blows the tournament wide open. Yeah, like I said before, now all 4 teams have 1 win and 1 loss. The All Blacks still, though, has a bonus point, which keeps them at the top of the table. But the question is I want to ask is, has the aura for the invincibility of the All Blacks, is it gone? Yeah, it sets up a fascinating second half, though, however, for the competition. With the All Blacks now facing a massive challenge when they do return back into Eden Park, that is a massive one. That's going to be against the Springboks. I mean, the pressure is on Scott Robinson here and the team, and it's immense. Yeah, like, oh man, losing to Argentina, and so far with the things that I'm reading and hearing about people commenting about like the negative side of things, man, I wouldn't want to be Scott Robinson. But however, yeah, anyways. Now for Argentina, obviously this win was an emotional moment, you know, and it can validate them that they can beat any team on the day if they play the way they played against the All Blacks. And so it's a nice way to sort of end up your run through your own hometown, yeah. So now that is pretty cool. Now, I wanted to also point out perhaps my unsung heroes of the night. Okay, now one of the unsung heroes, while Pablo Matera was, received a lot of praise. He received a lot of praise. The entire Pumas pack were unsung heroes for me. They just wanted it more than the All Blacks, you know, and the way they were going at those breakdowns, you know, the aggressiveness they have. They didn't want to take one step backwards from the All Blacks on that night. They were relentless, yeah, physically imposing in the carries and won crucial scrum penalties. Man, Marcos Kremer in particularly, man, his tackling machine and a nuisance at the breakdown. He was just all over the joint. Love that fella. Okay. Another unsung hero for me for Argentina was the guy that actually scored the try. I think Ioane or whatever it is. Yeah. His try was a testament to his experience and finishing ability. Eh? He was a constant threat in the wing and made some smart decision under pressure. Something that Xavier Reese was struggling with. Now, when it came to our All Blacks, now here's the guy that a lot of people are giving criticism at this stage. But for me, I found him as actually one of my unsung heroes on the night, is Rieko Ioane. I know in a losing effort, he was actually one of the All Blacks' best players. Yeah, like if you actually go back to the game, he was a powerful runner. Made some line breaks. Although he did drop I think a couple of balls and that, and looked the most threatening player with the ball in hand for New Zealand. He actually stepped up when it was normally would have been Brodie Barrett, but Rieko Ioane did his work, man. And apart from those knock-ons that I mentioned before, but he stood out to me. So as much as everyone is trying to go against the bro, nah, Rieko also, man, love your work on that game. Just keep it up. And I mean, if only you had more time to play in the wing when you play the Pacific Championship, then I don't know, maybe you would have played a lot better now. But being in an All Blacks environment, it's different, eh? And so I can feel that you're giving anything you got. So never mind what people are saying, man. You just do you, and you know yourself better than anybody else. So, all right. Now, who was the surprise for me was Santiago Carreras. Now, he was the man. Coming on for the injured Thomas early in the match. He was a huge surprise for me. He showed incredible composure under pressure, and his flawless goal kicking, man, in the second half was arguably the difference between winning and losing. Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't expected to have such an impact, but he stepped up brilliantly, man. So well done to him. Now, the way that I looked at Argentina and their game plan, their plan was strategic, masterpiece. Yeah. So it was pretty much territorial dominance. Yeah, using contestable kicks to put pressure on the All Blacks back three and force errors deep in New Zealand's half. What I also saw from them as well was their physicality at the breakdown. They were able to slow down the All Blacks ball, and actually at times were forcing turnovers. Capitalizing on penalties, which was another thing that I thought the Argentinians worked really hard on, taking every opportunity to put points on the board via boot rather than going for tries when the kick was an option. And hey, did the All Blacks make that mistake? I think we did. Yeah, I think there was a couple of times where Brodie Barrett, I reckon he could have slotted it through the middle, but we opted to go for the sideline. And we didn't come with anything. We didn't come away with anything. We just ended up losing the ball. So once again, for the Pumas to capitalize on that, and we're going to keep in mind, that is one way to put pressure on a team. It's putting more points on the scoreboard. But whichever means and what way that comes. So well done to the Argentinians. Now, what did I see about the All Blacks game plan? We all know that the All Blacks wants to play a fast-paced game. Okay? That fast tempo attacking game. But it just didn't happen. Yeah, it just didn't happen. The width and the tempo, moving the ball quickly to the outside channels to exploit space, that wasn't really there. It didn't really happen. Like I said, going back on the video, at times where our attack had just looked flat. It almost looked embarrassing to the point where, I don't want to run it. Oh wait, was that for me? Or who's that pass to? So it was kind of like lack of communication in there. We didn't. Attacking our scrums, we try to use our scrums as launching pad for quick strikes. Once again, that didn't really work out for us. Individual brilliance. I think we all know who we look forward to getting ball in hand is Will Jordan, but unfortunately, man, there's only one of him. So we got to try and use somebody else to create something from nothing. So because when we're Jordan, they've obviously learned it from the first game. South Africa is not going to be well marking him when they play at Eden Park. So this didn't work consistently as they would have hoped. So they need a new strategy on that. Did injuries have an impact on the game? Yes, it did. I think absolutely for the Pumas, when Thomas got injured, it was almost like blessing in disguise for them, as it brought on Santiago, who proved to be the match winner with his boot. Okay, now for the other hand, we had Ethan de Groot in the first half, which affected their depth in the front row. That's something that was still running low on as well with the All Blacks, is the front row. But however, it was their discipline that was far more significant. Yeah, factor of why we lost. Okay. Yeah, family and friends, you know, those are some of the points that I wanted to get across in our video today. Now, obviously, the points that conceded from the yellow cards, there were 7 points that conceded from them. Yeah, the first yellow cards. I mean, Sevu Reece's one, it came on later. Now, just going back to the reason why, you know, just trying to unpack a few more things of why we lost the game to Argentina. Now, obviously, those yellow cards, see, once again, the yellow cards are the first thing that came to my mind. And I think it'll be to many of you as well. I think there were 7 points that accumulated when the two Tupovaea and Wood Jordan were in the bin. Not so much for Sevu Reece, although if he was on the field, we would have probably made a difference, having 15 instead of 14. Now, another factor that played I guess, a negative role in the All Blacks was the amount of tackles. We missed 40 tackles on that night, or on that game. So we missed 40 tackles and we gave away 13 penalties. Man, and every single one of those penalties, like I said, Argentina, they capitalized on them. They bounced on it, and they did the most that they could with them. And some was to gain territory, and some was to go for penalties, get points, and they were able to do that towards the end and actually win the game. And so it played a significant part, missing those tackles and the amount of penalties that the All Blacks did. So, man, 40 tackles and 13 penalties, that's a lot, you know, to give that to Argentina or to any team regardless. They would love that. You know, they would just take it with 2 hands and say, thank you, man. We're just gonna kick for the 3 points and so forth. And so I just wanted to mention there's a few, you know, few people that I thought did really well as well, apart from my unsung heroes, was the midfielder for Argentina, Santiago. He was relentless on defense, okay? He shut down the All Blacks attack and forced them to play in their back foot. So, like, once again, this highlights that it wasn't just the All Blacks errors, but a proactive, you know, like suffocating defense by the Pumas that actually stopped them from getting the momentum to go forward. So another thing that I thought was that was important to mention as well is the breakdown battle. Yeah, like, I mean, the All Blacks scrum was dominant, but the breakdown was a different story. Scrum, breakdown, 2 different things. The Pumas were far more effective at the breakdown though. You know, they actually mastered slowing down the ball for the All Blacks and creating turnovers for them. So this is where the physicality, you know, that really shown, and why the All Blacks attack looks so disjointed. But however, another one that's worth mentioning is Beauden Barrett's defense. You know, he actually Beauden Barrett made 2 outstanding try-saving tackles on Argentina's wing, Batista. Yeah, so that prevented the scoreline from getting even worse. Imagine that. Okay, so this shows that despite the overall performance, there were still some moments of brilliance from both teams and also some individuals as well. So, what is there now for the All Blacks to prepare for? Well, everyone will be singing, discipline, discipline, discipline. Obviously, this will be the number one focus, okay? This is where I feel like the All Blacks will have to prepare themselves against. To me, at this stage, the world champions, the World Cup champions, well, they are. All Blacks are going to have to be disciplined, disciplined, disciplined. Yep, that'll be the number one focus. When you play against South Africa, good luck if you give them 13 penalties. What would, mate? And then try and miss 40 tackles again. I don't think you want to repeat that. Okay, so the All Blacks, coaching staff and Robinson, they're already probably drilling these things into them by now. Especially the decision making under pressure. The All Blacks will definitely have to be more physicality and at the breakdowns. Yeah, just the Springboks, the entire game is built on physical dominance. That's just who they are, man. Okay, and every run, every tackle, every chase, they just want to win every collisions there is. And so the All Blacks, they have to be willing to go to war in order to win those high balls. And so I expect the South Africans to focus heavily on the ruck, counter-rucking and aggressive in the cleanouts. So no secrets there, eh? The South Africans are going to bring the heat. I think another thing that the All Blacks are probably going to be working on is obviously the aerial game improvements. The back three, that's something they're going to have to work on. If you think that the Argentinians were kicking the ball, mate, that's nothing compared to what the South Africans are going to bring at Eden Park. We know that's their specialty. They're going to be kicking from all over the joint. So the back three, man, they're going to have to be spot on. Otherwise, we're getting driven back every single time. So the Springboks, man, they will look to pin them in their own half and force errors. And I feel like the last thing that the All Blacks will probably need to work against the Springboks is refining our attack. Okay. Now our attack was a mess against Argentina. We cannot afford to do that against the All Blacks. Against the Springboks. I don't know. Sometimes when you're trying to be too creative, you stuff things up. Maybe perhaps go back to the basics. Keep it simple. Run the straight lines. Make sure there's a pillar. Make sure the ball is looked after. Clear ball for the first five. The halfback or whoever it may be. Just trying to get some more stronger ball runners in there, apart from just Severe all the time. We have forwards that are bigger and taller than Severe, but it's just that every time Severe runs the ball, he just looks more dominant than all of them. So they against South Africa, they cannot rely on individual brilliance, although that is needed, but you cannot rely on that. It's going to take 23, the whole squad that's training to beat South Africa. And so it's going to be one hell of a game at Eden Park. So really looking forward to see how that's going to go. There's going to be already, there is a huge amount of pressure on the All Blacks playing at Eden Park. And so there's quite a few things on the list to clear up and get fixed before the game. The loss to Argentina was definitely a wake-up call. And they needed to be a completely different team now to stand against the Springboks. They're going to have to. And All Blacks, I believe you will become a different team to play against the South Africans at Eden Park. I know you're going to win it. So let's bring it, boys. Thank you everyone for watching. God bless.